Welcome everybody inside Fort Lee High School's East Gymnasium, the setting for this first round game of North 1 Group 3 sectional. As the Garfield Boilermakers, 15-13 on the year, they're the 10 seed taking on the 7-seeded Fort Lee Bridgman, 15-12 overall this fall. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Long, joined alongside by Dimitri Nanis and Renee Matisic, and we're so glad that he could join us here for Fort Lee Bridgman Volleyball. Second meeting of the season between these two sides. They met earlier October 9th in Garfield. Fort Lee won in 2 sets, 25-19 in both sets. Fort Lee will begin with service. Bella Ploutz, the libero, trying to bring it down, and it goes out of bounds for the service error. And Garfield will start with the 1-0 advantage here in set number 1. Jason Jones is the head coach of the Boilermakers. John Ziemba, the head coach here at Fort Lee. Setting up to Shulman in front of the nets. So that's ricocheted around, and Garfield deflects that one into the ceiling as Alyssa Roundtree, the libero for the purple-clad Boilermakers, was trying to get it up and over. So it's 1-1 start. Sarah Wong, the junior, will serve now for Fort Lee. Lout digs it out from the back. That time too hot to handle. Olivia Kim, number 22, did a great job of firing that one home as it got deflected off the hand of a backline player for Garfield. First lead of the opening set now for Fort Lee at 2-1. Roundtree got a piece of that one to keep it alive. Now Fort Lee looking to attack. Song gets that one to ricochet and fall in between a host of different players. It's a 3-0 spurt now for Fort Lee as they've taken a 3-1 advantage. Fort Lee recently snapped a 4-match losing streak with a 2-1 win over Hackensack in the regular season finale. Service error there by Fort Lee. Out of bounds to that far side, so that'll end the 3-0 run for the Bridgemen. Service going back over to Garfield. Victoria Hidalgo, the junior, serving here for the Boilermakers. Nice diving effort there by Roundtree. Miss hit in front of the net. Amelia Rastevska was trying to get that up and over. 4-2 lead now for Fort Lee. I'd like to thank our proud sponsors of Fort Lee Athletics, William T. Birch Children's Fund, Sedona Tap House, Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, It's Greek to Me, Fort Lee Education Association, VFW of Fort Lee, Bergen Black Sox, Connect One Bank, Fort Lee Pizza, and Collective Hair Salon. Pops straight up into the air. Good job defensively there for Fort Lee. Borisov trying to get the winner. Dug out of the back line there by Hidalgo. And that goes a little too long as it goes for another Fort Lee point, 5-2. Emily Tapale was the one who was trying to find her way into a point there. She leads the team with 259 kills on the season for Garfield. Fort Lee unable to track that one down as it's deflected last touch off of the Bridgeman. 5-3 lead for Fort Lee here in the opening set. Service and the point going back over to Garfield. Amelia Rastevska, 160 kills on the season, 28 service aces as well. Fort Lee going too strong, too long there, as that leads to a point now for Garfield. Back-to-back points for the visitors, and their deficit is down to 1 at 5-4. Song over to Shulman. Garfield going too long that time with their response, and that goes out of bounds. 6-4 lead. Fort Lee is led by as many as 3 in this opening set. Garfield took an early 1-0 lead, but Fort Lee has been taking the lead since. Here's Emma Shulman, 131 kills on the season for Shulman. Low-lining serve. Setting it up for Kim inside. Deflected, and Tabale getting that one to go home for the points. Tabale, again, 7 kills, 5 digs against Fort Lee in the initial meeting back on October 9th. Bit of a jump serve that time for Mariana Patino Palacios. Trying to drop shot. Palacios, cat-like reflexes, and eventually leads to a point. Scored by Garfield with a drop shot just in front of the back line. Patino Palacios did an outstanding job of just maneuvering at the last second on the far side. Got her hand on it. That popped it skyward for her teammate, who then deposited right in front of that back line. 6-6. Service too long that time. Service error will give Fort Lee back the advantage. It's 7-6. Samantha Song, impressive-looking freshman. 121 assists on the season for the Frosh. Serving here for the Bridgemen. And another finish there on the kill. 7-7 as both teams trading points in the last couple of possessions. Fort Lee trying to win back the lead. What a pinball effort there by Garfield, but they could not get it up and over. Great job again of just having those quick reactions to get a handle on it, but again, that last time when it got deflected, they couldn't get it up and over the net. Catherine Borisov, the senior, 277 digs on the season for number 4 in black and orange. Fort Lee with Kim in front of the net. It trickled down for the point. Took a little something off that one. Maybe the front line was anticipating a harder shot attempt. Garfield could not score that point. It's now a 9-7 advantage for Fort Lee. Borisov at 22 digs, most recently against Cliffside Park. Pops it up in the air to Ploutz. Kim fading away, still got it up and over backwards. Borisov sticking out one hand to save it. Kim with a running shot, and that one going a little too long. That'll be a point going over to Garfield, making this a 1-point advantage for the Bridgemen. Number 1 seed in this bracket, Ramapo. They're going to be taking on Bergenfield in the first round matchup. This is the 7-10 showdown. The winner will take on the winner of number 15 Dover, taking on number 2 seed Cliffside Park. Fort Lee hits that into the nets. Point goes over to Garfield. Back-to-back points for the 10 seed. And we're knotted up at 9-9. Kim inside. Dug out of the back tree. The back line by Roundtree. Fort Lee, good defensive work in the back line. Garfield doing a good job with their return game. And that is going to be deemed inside, just inside that back line. Great placement by Sarah Wong. Wong with a pair of different players trying to block her at the net. She still got it up and over them and had it just inside the back line. Great execution that time by Fort Lee. They serve, leading 10-9. Garfield able to get it over. Kim, Roundtree getting to it. Miss hit that time by Fort Lee. So they were scaling backwards. Looked like it was Sydney Kim trying to go with a left hand. Could not get that cleanly as it ricocheted off of her and out of bounds. 10-10 the score. Again, this is the North 1 Group 3 sectional first round. Winners would advance to the quarterfinals. Losers would have their season come to a close. Garfield too long again. A couple times now we've seen in this opening set. Garfield just too strong in their approach, not having a little more finesse. Last season, Fort Lee defeated Morris Hills in 3 sets here at home in the first round of the North 1 Group 3 playoffs. Fort Lee would later lose to Wayne Valley in the quarterfinals. That was unreturnable there as Fort Lee gets the ace. And the Bridgemen increase their lead back to a 2-point margin at 12-10. Garfield's playing its best volleyball this season, having come into this match, having gone 7-3 since that loss at home on October 9th against Fort Lee. Too long. Again, that is a run of 3 in a row here for Fort Lee after it was tied at 10-all. 13-10 advantage. This ties the largest margin in favor of Fort Lee so far in opening set. Low lining serve, that was a beauty. Just got over the net by Sarah Wong. Schulman tries to send that to the back line. Saved by Garfield. And that time it bounced around and deflected off of Fort Lee last, and it's going to be a point now for Garfield. There's a big save there for Garfield after Fort Lee had gone on their 3-0 run and were trying to build their momentum and grow the lead even further. Schulman in front. Roundtree saves it in the back. Tip shot and Garfield back-to-back points. 13-12, the lead for Fort Lee here in set number 1. Kim blocked in the net. Plout trying to save it upwards, but nobody came back to track it down. So after Fort Lee went on a 3-0 run, Garfield has responded with a 3-0 spurt of their own. It's 13-all. Garfield serving here, trying to recapture the lead. Plout was told off that time to lay off as Coach Ziemba was barking out, saying that it was going out, and it did go out by the slimmest of margins. Good eyes there by the head coach, and his libero, Bello Plout, the junior, laying off it. Plout leads the team with 359 digs on the season. Fort Lee with a 14-13 lead. Luna Sugahara was the server. Here she is now trying to dig it out. Could not be able to be tracked down by Wong in front of the net. 14-14. Borisov. Garfield trying to track it down. They just can't get it over on the third try. That leads to another point. Every time that it's been tied up of late, Fort Lee's had the answer and the ability to take back the lead. They have not surrendered the lead since it was a 1-0 advantage for Garfield early on to begin this opening set. Emma Schulman. A little miscommunication there for Garfield. They got it over, though. Kim was trying to float that one over to the far side. Garfield again unable to get underneath it cleanly to pop it forward. 16-14. Schulman again with the service. Nearly collision ensues between a couple of Boilermakers. Fort Lee tracks it down defensively. Kim in front. And a point here for Fort Lee. 17-14, so both teams trading 3-0 runs. Fort Lee went on the first one to take a 13-10 lead. Then Garfield responded to make it 13-all. Now Fort Lee has taken back the lead on a 3-0 spurt of 17-14. Trying to take this opening set of this sectional playoff matchup. Schulman, good job of tracking down from the side. Borisov getting it over. Wong. Fort Lee's never led by more than 3, and they still won't. Spike finish in front. Big finish there. Emily Tapale, again, who leads Garfield in kills on the season with 259, had the ferocious finish there. Fort Lee lays off that one going too long. 18-15, service back to the Bridgemen. Looking for what would be their 8th win at home this season here in East Gym. Looking for win number 16 overall, both teams with 15 wins apiece. And a nice cross-court winner there for Garfield. They'll pull back to within 2 at 18-16. The ballet serving. Wong to Borisov. Left-hander pops it forward. Borisov. As Kim now flying in, trying to keep it going. And a miss hit there for Garfield. Into the net it goes. A big point secured by Fort Lee, 19-16. Again, they won in the opening matchup against Garfield this season, 25-19 in both sets. Borisov with a nice serve. Garfield does get it over. Here's Fort Lee once again trying to extend the lead to 4. Deflected on their side of the nets, and it's going to be a point for Garfield. So every time that Fort Lee has inched their way to expanding upon that 3-point margin, Garfield has had the answer to make sure that they don't fall behind by more than 3. 19-17 now. Alyssa Roundtree, the sophomore libero in white for Garfield, setting it up with the service. Blocked in front was Kim. Fort Lee, what a move! That was outstanding anticipation of just playing the quick play by Sarah Wong. She was going backwards and just sliced it right up and over the net. 20-17 lead for Fort Lee. Plout will serve it into the net. Service error, point and serve goes over to Garfield. Back to a 2-point margin. No real breathing room just yet in this opening set. Fort Lee 5 points away from taking the opening set. And that is mishit, going too long that time. Lead is down to 1, 20-19. Plout gets it over. Garfield tracks it down. Plout. Song. Wong. Good diving effort on the far side that time. Garfield gets it deflected at the net. That's going to be a point, and it's 20-20. So here's a 3-0 run by Garfield to tie it up after Fort Lee had just enjoyed a lead at 3 a couple of moments ago. And Garfield looking for their first lead since 1-0. And there's the lead for the Boilermakers, 21-10. And a timeout's going to have to be taken by Coach John Ziemba as he feels that momentum has started to shift here at home. 21-20, the lead for Garfield, as they're 4 points away from taking this opening set on the road. Again, we'd like to thank our proud sponsors of Fort Lee Bridgman Athletics, William T. Birch Children's Fund, Sedona Tap House, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, It's Greek to Me, Fort Lee Education Association, VFW of Fort Lee, the Bergen Black Sox, Connect One Bank, Fort Lee Pizza, and Collective Hair Salon. (21-20), Garfield serving with the lead. Fort Lee trying to stop the bleeding. And Emma Schulman does just that, as she's done all season long. The quick, decisive move, almost like a hook shot equivalent. But now they're going to say no. Point goes to Garfield. So, wow, they are taking that point off the board. That is what Emma Schulman's done all season long, but I don't know if they said she got underneath it and kind of just hooked it underneath. Now Fort Lee's got to be resilient here, trailing by 2. Biggest lead for Garfield. And a miss hit that time. That's big for the Boilermakers to misfire there. They had a chance to go up 3. Instead, the miss hit gives some life to Fort Lee, down by 1, 22-21 here in the opening set. And again, a miss hit in the front of the nets. Amelia Rostevska, the senior, too strong. Back-to-back points by Fort Lee, and now the Bridgemen have tied it up at 22-22. Roundtree tracks it down. Plout set it up. Shulman that time gets it in. And they're going to say, no, it was out. To say that Coach Ziemba is incredulous would be the biggest understatement of all time. He is furious. He thought that was clearly inbounds. Plout will track it down. So that's got an over. Garfield pinballs it back up and over the net. Shulman in front. And Garfield gets the winner. It's now 1 point away from winning the opening set, up 24-22. So Fort Lee's got to find a way to hunker down here. The Boilermakers 1 point away from capturing the opening set here on the road. Here comes Garfield, and they get it, 25-22. Garfield takes set number one. They came from behind. Fort Lee led on a number of occasions by 3. But Fort Lee came down to that last part, and again, that big call that went against them was when it looked like Emma Shulman did her patented move of just the quick turn and fire. I don't know if they said she cupped it. I don't know what the official call was in the ruling. But 25-22, Garfield wins the opening set and now puts themselves in position. If they win set number 2, they will advance in the state tournament. We'll be back for the start of set number 2 here inside East Gym as Garfield, number 10 seed, takes on number 7 Fort Lee here as you're watching all the action of the 2024 North 1 Group 3 Sectional State Playoffs. Garfield is a team that is 15-13 on the season. They come in off a win against Dwight Englewood in their regular season finale. They only went 4-8 this season on the road, so this is a great start for them to take that opening set, 25-22. Dan Long, Dimitri Nanis, Renee Matisic, so glad that he could join us here in the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Postseason volleyball action. The Bridgemen trying to advance to the next round. Garfield trying to throw a wrench into those plans. Garfield in the purple. To the right side of your screen in the black and orange is Fort Lee here at home. Top seed is Ramapo. Morris Knowles the 8, Randolph the 9, Northern Highlands the 5 seed, Tenafly the 12, Mount Olive the 4, Wayne Hills the 13, Wayne Valley the 3 seed, Morris Hills the 14 seed, Nutley the 6, Teaneck the 11 seed, Fort Lee the 7 seed in this bracket, Garfield the 10, Cliffside Park the 2, And number 15 seed is Dover. So now Fort Lee's got some work to do. As the second set is underway. Tiona Babunska, the one who was serving, number 1. Kim has that one deflect off of the diving advances of Roundtree, and Fort Lee will take the initial lead 1-0. Lout will serve. And there's a service ace. Make it 2-0. Bella Plout, the junior, and 33 aces on the season coming into play today. And another point here for Fort Lee, an inspired start for the Bridgemen. They've jumped out to a quick 3-0 advantage. And this ties the largest lead that they held several times throughout the course of the opening set. Could never create more than a 3-point advantage. Loud diving down low to make that stop. Fadeaway shot. And that goes out. So a point now for Garfield, so the trend continues. Fort Lee could just never extended past the 3-point lead. Song over to Wong. Wong gets it up and over the defense. Deflected, Plout getting dirty. On that far side, it's ricocheted out of bounds. Last touch off of Garfield, so the point for Fort Lee. Back to a 3-point margin at 4-1. And that is a great serve by Sarah Wong. That ate up Roundtree on the other side. She gets the service ace. Now for the first time this afternoon, Fort Lee has taken a 4-point lead in a set. 5-1 start to set number 2. And Wong, a little help there. Skims it off the top of the net. Another ace, back-to-back aces for Wong. She had 36 aces on the season coming into play today, the leader in this team. 6-1 lead for Fort Lee. Wong too strong that time. Setting it long, and it's now a 6-2 margin. Heavy hit. Garfield now trying to have a little bit of a drop shot. And Fort Lee was not able to track it down. Back-to-back points now for the Boilermakers. Wong trying to push it off to that back right corner. Garfield trying to track it down, and they do. Wong flies in front of Plout. Plout just couldn't get it going on the other side, and Garfield has gone on a run after being down 6-1. They've rattled off 3 unanswered to pull back within 2 at 6-4. That one goes long as Plout had to duck underneath. She didn't want to get any part of that as that went too long on the play, and it goes for a .74 lead now for Fort Lee as they move in rotation. And Luna Sugahara will now serve for the Bridgemen. Fort Lee will have to win this one in 3 sets if they could come back. If Garfield wins here in set number 2, that would advance them in the state tournament. Another little soft touch shot for a point for Garfield. I think they're starting to learn from the mistakes of the opening set when they hit so many high and wide. Low lining serve, dug out. Popped up though. Schulman swings and connects that time. Emma Schulman, one of the senior leaders on this team, trying to continue her high school career here today. Fort Lee getting to it, curling it just up and over. Bit of a drop shot as Fort Lee tries to go for the back corner. And that shot goes a little too long, goes out of bounds for Fort Lee, and a point for Garfield. Once again, Fort Lee doing a good job of understanding the back line, hearing their coach and Coach Ziemba, and ducking down when the ball was kind of dying in closely. Back to the three-point lead for Fort Lee at 9-6. There's a service ace for Samantha Song, the impressive freshman. Song had 18 aces on the season coming into play today. Had a nice spin there on her serve that just ate up Garfield on the near baseline. 10-6 lead here for Fort Lee in set number 2. Fort Lee again laying off it as that goes long. 11-6, it goes back to the largest lead of the day at 5. Neither team is led by more than 5 in a single set. Low lining serve by Song. The whistle sounded and a point was given to Fort Lee. So now Fort Lee has doubled up Garfield here at 12-6. Garfield trying to stop this momentum shift. Borisov dug out of the back line. Borisov again, the left-hander. And when she is locked in, she is tough to defend against. Kind of that windmill of a rotation she does with her arm on that far side. Leads to the points, 13-6 lead. Fort Lee has responded after dropping that late lead in the first set and eventually dropping the first set overall. And Garfield's out of sorts right now. The lead grows to 14-6. 8-point margin in favor of Fort Lee as the Bridgemen are going to be trying to once again win the second set to force a third and final decisive set. Nice job there of saving it by Sugihara, but then a little miscommunication in front. Fort Lee not able to get it up and over. Roundtree serving. Drop shot, and did that fall in? No, they're going to say a point for Fort Lee. That was very fortunate. It looks like from our vantage point, now granted we're in the lower left-hand corner of East Gymnasium. Looks like that had fallen inside, but chair official had a better vantage point right in front of him. Point for the Bridgemen, and Borisov, better be lucky than good. Again, got that just lip off the top of the net, trickle its way down into an unprotected space, and it's now a 16-7 lead after the Borisov ace. Again, low lining serve, eaten up on the outside, and it's now back-to-back aces, and a timeout taken by Garfield. As they want to talk things over, Fort Lee is running away with the second set, 17-7. As we again thank our proud sponsors of all these broadcasts of Fort Lee Bridgeman Athletics, William T. Birch Children's Fund, Sedona Tap House, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, It's Greek to Me, Fort Lee Education Association, the VFW of Fort Lee, Bergen Black Sox, Connect One Bank, Fort Lee Pizza, and the Collective Hair Salon. Bridgman trying to make quick work here in the second set. Again, if you're just joining us, Garfield came from behind and went on to win the opening set 25-22. Fort Lee has now taken control of the second set, a 10-point margin. Borisov serve again, so dangerous. And Garfield stops the bleeding there, skimming that one off the top of the net and off the top of the fingertips of a frontline player. (17-8). Garfield needs to go on a continuous run here. Get back in this one. That's not going to help. 18-8. Fort Lee back in front by 10. Schulman comes back onto the floor. Thunderous finish there for Garfield in front. Rostevska with a kill. But again, Garfield can't be in position here to trade points. They've got to go on a run. Service error into the net. 19-9, Fort Lee in front. They led by 3, 20-17 at one point in the first set. Then Garfield had the closing touch. They won 25-22. Fort Lee unable to block it in the net with a pair of players trying to combine together. Once again, it was Amelia Rostevska who had some serious heat on that finish for the point, 19-10. Rostevska will serve. Fort Lee unable to connect on that service on the far side in the finish. 19-11. Garfield knows time is of the essence if they want to engineer an epic comeback to win this overall match. Fort Lee trying to win it at the net. Deflects out of bounds on the far side, and now it's a 20-11 lead for Fort Lee. Bridgman 5 points away from taking set 2. Sugahara. And that is a nice winning point for Tapale. Junior hasn't been a factor too much in this second set. In that first set, she was at one point spearheading that comeback when they were down by 3 late. Wong pushing it to the back line. Deflected, Borisov getting it up. Wong back to Borisov. Roundtree tracking it down. Good volley here between the two sides. Plout, nice save there. Borisov popped it up. Wong backhanded, getting it over. And Garfield finishes off that long marathon point, 20-13. This is the same part of set number 1 where Fort Lee kind of ran out of gas a bit. They got stuck on 20 for a long time. 5 points away again are the Bridgemen. Song kept alive there by Patino Palacios. Ricochets up top, Borisov. Just a little pop shot. Patino Palacios again diving in forward. Garfield was fading away. Again, another marathon points up for grabs. Plout with a great dig. Borisov with the finish. You felt that was such a big point. Even though there was a bit of a lead here for Fort Lee at 7. If Garfield were to have gotten that point, they could really start to believe in a great comeback attempt. That was enormous for Fort Lee, but then Fort Lee serves it out of bounds. Missed opportunity there. It's now 21-14. Kim kind of stutter-stepped right in front of the net. That goes long for Garfield. They were trying to cross-court winner. Fort Lee did a good job of laying off that, not getting a deflection. 22-14 serving here in the second set. Song eats up Garfield on the near side. That's going to be an ace. Victoria Hidalgo couldn't track it down in time. 23-14, Bridgman. Roundtree, almost a collision ensues. Garfield gets it over. Long. Too long. Garfield staying in it, 23-15. Again, Fort Lee 2 points away from deadlocking this overall match at 1 set apiece. Again, Fort Lee was cruising at one point, 17-7 lead. Once they get to the 20s, that's when they've slowed down significantly. And here's another point for Garfield. And that will elicit another timeout taken by Coach Ziemba as he sees that this is starting to shift a little bit in the favor of the visitors, despite still a 6-point comfortable lead here for Fort Lee, as they are trying to close down this second set and force a decisive third set here in this sectional playoff matchup. And again, what potentially could be awaiting Fort Lee if they were to find their way past Garfield here today could be potentially setting up a third matchup with their arch rivals in Cliffside Park in the next round of the playoffs. But there's a lot of volleyball that has to be played before that can even be accomplished. Before they can even think about winning this overall match, they still have to win this second set. 23-17. Garfield serving, trying to pick up their collective effort here. And Fort Lee is led by as many as 10 points in this second set. Roundtree doing a great job of diving to dig that out. Garfield keeping it in play, forcing the effort here for Fort Lee. Diving effort. It goes out of bounds. And a point here for Fort Lee, and they're at set point. One more point would give Fort Lee the second set. Set point for Catherine Borisov. Mishit that one right into the net. Service error. Point goes over to Garfield, 24-18. Tiona Babunska, the junior #1 serving. She had 6 assists in the first meeting between the two schools. Blocked in front of the net. Another point here for Garfield. 24-19. Quick over there. Fort Lee still trying to close this out, and they can't. 24-20. Garfield has been so resilient here in the second part of this second set. They are not going quietly when it looked like it was going to be a blowout second set win for Fort Lee. The lead, which was 10, is now dwindled down to 4. Bunska again will try to get it all set. Kim dug out by Rosario. Fade away, Plout pops it up. Fort Lee with Wong pushing it to the back line, tracked down. And that's a double hit against Garfield, and that is the decisive point. And Fort Lee will take set number 2 by a score of 25-20. And that will force us into a third and final set to decide who will be advancing in the North 1 Group 3 sectional state playoffs. Again, we'd like to thank our proud sponsors here of Fort Lee Athletics: William T. Birch Children's Fund, Sedona Tap House, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, It's Greek to Me, Fort Lee Education Association, the VFW of Fort Lee, the Bergen Black Sox, Connect One Bank, Fort Lee Pizza, and Collective Hair Salon. Getting set for the start of set number 3 here inside East Gym at Fort Lee High School. Garfield and Fort Lee tied at 1 set apiece. The winner of this set will advance in the state playoffs. Garfield won the opening set 25-22, rallying from behind late to take that opening set. Fort Lee took a lead by as many as 10 at one point in that second set. and went on to win by 5, 25-20. So winner take all. One team's season will come to a close after this one, and one will venture on. Bella Plout starts off the third set with an ace. Fell in between a couple of backline players for Garfield. 1-0 lead for Fort Lee. Bridgman trying to beat Garfield for the second time this season. Garfield getting it up and into the raised up backboard and basket and still kept in play. Schulman with the dunk shot. Pushing that back line, big rally here. Cloud getting it up top, Song getting it to Wong. Wong, nice defensive work in the back line there by Tapale. Dug out by Tapale in the back line. Ranging down low, and cross-court winner there for Garfield. A marathon point goes the way of Garfield. Tapale doing an outstanding job in that back line. He's got 281 digs on the season. That was a hard-earned point for Garfield. 1-1 your score here in the beginning of the third set. Good job there by Sarah Wong of administering that pain as it went down for the winner and got deflected out of bounds to the far side. 2-1 lead now for Fort Lee. Wong will serve. Stuff an attempt at the front of the net. Blocked in front, Emma Schulman with the point. Big block there by the senior Schulman. 10 blocks on the season. 3-1 advantage here for the Bridgemen to start off the third set. Wong will continue to serve. Tapale started it off with a defensive work in the back line. Hard hit there, dug out again by Tapale in the back. Deflected off the net, but still live. Little dunk shot there. Schulman to the other side, and that goes too wide and out. Schulman tried to rush that one again, just trying almost the equivalent of a hook shot in basketball. She's done that so well throughout the course of the season, but I think since that call was made against her in the first set, she's a little hesitant. And her accuracy has not been there on some of those attempts. 3-2. Wong just has to push it over. Deflected in front initially by Fort Lee. Plout now will get it over. Good hustle in that back line by Garfield. It was Lena Salas who got to it. Fort Lee gets it in their back line. Quick push over. Garfield tracks it down. Every point hotly contested right now to begin the third set. Deflects and goes for a point for Fort Lee at 4-2. Again, in that second set, we saw Fort Lee race out to an initial lead with a lot of quick points. Much more back and forth here in the start of the third set. Points are hard to come by. Sugahara will be called on to serve for Coach John Ziemba's Fort Lee Bridgemen. They won their opening round game in the playoffs last year in 3 sets over Morris Hills. Trying to do the same here against Garfield. Schulman gets it over. Diving play there by Hidalgo. And that is deflected. Last touch out of bounds off of Garfield. 5-2 lead now for Fort Lee. Largest lead for the Bridgemen here in set number 3. And the winner will advance to play the winner of Cliffside Park in Dover the next round. Nice service ace there for Fort Lee. They've taken a 4-point lead at 6-2. Fort Lee would love another chance at their arch rivals in Cliffside Park. Team that we saw in our last broadcast here broke the heart of Fort Lee, coming back to win in 3 sets. And Schulman gets that one to fall. A jump shot in the back right corner. And Fort Lee is starting to distance itself a little bit here from Garfield. 7-2 lead to start off the third. But again, we saw against Cliffside Park, Fort Lee led by as many as 7 early on in the third, only to squander that advantage. That was a big point for Garfield. Pale had that one ricochet and deflect off of a Fort Lee frontline player, and it fell in front of the net for the point. Front of the net. Be a point given to Garfield. Violation called against the Bridgeman there. So Garfield has gone on back-to-back points. Missed opportunity, though, with a service error into the net. They were starting to take back a little momentum, and that unforced error gives the point of the service back over to Fort Lee. 8-4 lead as Emma Schulman serves. Drop shot in front, miscommunication, and falls in between a pair of Fort Lee players, and that gives Garfield their 5th point of this third set. Clout ranges down low. Borisov. Kim trying to go backwards. Bale had some heat on that. Fort Lee trying to track it down. Plout just can't maneuver it enough. And here comes Garfield again. They were down by 5 and now have shrunk that deficit to 2, 8-6. And again, they serve it into the net. Jason Jones, the head coach for Garfield, looking on, frustrated after his team was starting to go on a bit of a burst. Song will serve. And Song will get the ace down the near side. Pinpoint accuracy. Fit that in a tight window on the court. Back-to-back points for Fort Lee. Extend the lead back to 4, 10-6. Song too long that time. Goes out for a point for Garfield. (10-7) margin. Kim. And is that going to be out, or they're going to say it deflected maybe, and point was given over to Fort Lee. Looked like it was going long, but even when they had the flag official saying that that was deflected. Last touch off of Garfield, so an 11-7 lead now for Borisov and Fort Lee. Blount will get it over. Garfield, desperate need of something here, and that is an unbelievable shot. Hitting that diagonally into the top right corner. Right in front of the Fort Lee sideline. Could not ask for better location that time from Victoria Hidalgo. And that's an enormous swing instead of a 5-point lead, a 3-point deficit. Fort Lee tracked it down with Song, waiting for it to deflect off the front of the net. Miss hit that time by Wong. Point for Garfield. And the Boilermakers pull closer than just 2. A couple times they've gotten to this point, only to surrender a couple of consecutive points. Right back. Trying to pull to within one. Wortley gets it over. Another long contested rally here. Goes out of bounds on the far side. 3-point lead now for Fort Lee at 12-9. Plout will serve. Song couldn't get to that one cleanly as that deflected off of her to the outside. And for another Garfield point as they pull back to within 2 at 12-10. Fort Lee is led by as many as 5 here in the early vestiges of the third set. Garfield took the opening set 25-22. Fort Lee took set number 2, 25-20 is again what ailed Garfield in that second set. The long serves that just went out of bounds. Plout doing a great job of eyeing that one, judging where the line was and laying off it. Garfield trying to track it down. Too long. Another big point there for Fort Lee. It's up to a 4-point lead again at 14-10. Again, Garfield has just not been able to cut that deficit down to 1. Wong will serve. Low liner. And that was good elevation in front of the net by Amelia Rostevska. Just swatted it home as nobody was there to defend in front for Fort Lee. 3-point lead for the Bridgemen. Jacqueline Ortega, number 24, serving. Garfield trying to track it down. Can they get it over? They can. Plout setting up her teammates. Song. Fort Lee trying to track it down. Plout hitting it into the backboard, and unfortunate bounce there for Fort Lee because Plout had popped it up and it looked like Wong was going to get a chance to just get it up and over. But it hit into the basketball backboard that is propelled and propped upwards. Back to a 2-point deficit. Garfield gets it over. And Fort Lee mishits it into the net. And here's the chance for Garfield that they've been waiting for. They have trimmed that deficit down to a slim point, 1-point lead. 14-13, Fort Lee on top. Tapale gets that one to Ricochet. Good bounce goes her way. 14-14, and that will once again trigger a timeout to be taken by Coach Ziemba. So Fort Lee had an early lead in this third set, but now have seen Garfield come back to tie this one up at 14 all. Fort Lee trying to avoid ending their season here today. They've lost their last couple of opportunities to really take control in this third set. Boilermakers have not been stubbing their own toes. They've been just putting the pressure on Fort Lee, serving it up and over the net and making the Bridgemen be the ones to have to serve it over and avoid the mistakes. Now the question is, can Garfield take the lead? They've come back to tie it up. Again, they fell behind by as many as 5 early on in this third set when it was 7-2. Drop shot. Wong was ready for it. As Fort Lee does a good job of getting it up and over that time. They'll score a much-needed point to retake the lead at 15-14. Sugahara. Borisov doing a good job of digging it out. Garfield trying to get it to their playmaker. Tapale. Good also there by Wong. Shulman in front. Pinballed it around in front. Going backwards. Fort Lee tracking down. Good defense here. Another long volley. And a miss hit that time by Garfield. Lead to the point for Fort Lee. The Bridgemen have responded out of the timeout. Back-to-back points have taken back the lead at 16-14. Garfield struggling to get it back, and what a response here by the Bridgemen. 3-0 run. 3-0 run here for Fort Lee. They've taken a 17-14 lead. Again, if they win this third set, they win the match and they advance in the state playoffs. Wong saves it to Song. Wong back on that back line. Fort Lee starting to sharpen up its defense. And there's Shulman, there's the hook shot, there's the dump shot finish. 4-point lead. Fort Lee starting to get into their own groove here. 18-14. Sugahara serving. Long as it goes out. Point for Garfield, and now Garfield's going to be relying on Rostevska to serve her and her team back into this game. Too long. So both teams misfiring on their serves in the last couple of moments. 19-15 Fort Lee in front. 6 points away from winning the match. Shulman to the far side. Propelled straight backwards there by Fort Lee. Trying to find Tapale, who's the best player for Garfield. We track down. Garfield does get it over in time. An enormous possible point here. Roundtree does stick her hand out to keep it alive. Little push shot there by Wong, trying to capture that point, but it was Garfield who hunkered down for an enormous stop there. Again, that's a swing of 2 points. Fort Lee could have garnered that point. They would have gone up 5, 20-15. Instead, Roundtree and company kept the play alive and eventually took home that point to stay within striking distance at 3, 19-16. Cloud will get it over. And a mistimed jump there. Another point for Garfield. And it's almost always around this juncture in the sets that Garfield comes alive right when Fort Lee's around 20 points. And they go on their runs. And a point now for Fort Lee. 20-17. That shot too long. And now Fort Lee is 4 points away. Back-to-back points secured by the Bridgemen, 21-17. After Garfield had made it a 3-point match. Fort Lee's just got to continue to serve it in play, make Garfield make the mistakes. Wong. As soon as I say that, too strong. That's a gift of a point here for the Boilermakers. Miss hit that time by the Bridgemen. They got jammed royally on that service ace. Ballet now serving again. Her team down only 2, 21-19. Service error. That's an enormous one for Garfield. Into the net. Fort Lee stretches its lead back to 3, 22-19. Again, Fort Lee's got to avoid the service errors. Keep it in play. Borisov. Kim. Dug out there by Patino Palacios. Kim again. Lunging over in that back line, saving it with one arm. Stapale. Push shot. Stapale doing everything to keep her team in this match. Well, that shot is too long. 23-19, Fort Lee in front. Fort Lee 2 points away in this third and final set in this first round action in the North 1 Group 3 playoffs. Borisov popping it up. Wong. Garfield gets it over. Plout. Song. Kim. Dug out by Roundtree. Spale. Great play there by Plout defensively. Outstanding hustle there in the back line by Tapale. And a cut shot finish there by Garfield. Kamora Henry, the senior, with a devastating finish in front of the net. (23-20). Garfield trying to stay in this one. That back line dug out. And that is a double hit, and we are now at match point, 24-20. Fort Lee 1 point away from advancing in the state tournament, looking for their 16th win of the season. Bella Plout serving. And Bella Plout has served her team into the next round of the state playoffs. As Fort Lee, after dropping the opening set, come back to win in the second and third sets, 25-20 in both the second and third. So Fort Lee lives to play another day as Garfield will end their season 15-14, while Fort Lee with a win will improve to 16-12 on the season. What a thrilling finish here. Congratulations, Coach Siemba and Fort Lee on the win. Again, we'd like to thank all of you who have watched and supported these student athletes from both schools. We'd like to thank one final time our proud sponsors, William T. Birch Children's Fund, Sedona Tap House, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, It's Greek to Me, Fort Lee Education Association, the VFW of Fort Lee, Bergen Black Sox, Connect One Bank, Fort Lee Pizza, and Collective Hair Salon. So for my broadcast partners, and Dimitri Nanis and Renee Matisich, I'm Dan Long saying so long from Fort Lee. Again, Fort Lee survives in 3 sets and advances to play in the sectional quarterfinals. Take care, everybody.